not know that. I could have done this, guys. This is insane. Anyway, this is for the substackers. I just filmed 2 videos in this classroom, and I wanted to make this video for the substacker. The deep dives Vergutarians. I'm your teacher, Bella. And we're gonna have a deep dive on stress and protein. So in the last article that I presented was about protein catabolism and protein synthesis. So a lot of us know of the different proteins that are marketed out there. However, there's various forms. There is whey protein, isoleucine. There's an average of 20 essential amino acids. These are the codes that make up our actual protein structure. So there's different levels of protein. So this is the primary structure, which is just amino acids. And these are just little codes. One will be AUG. This is like a deep dive, guys. So this is a little deeper than what my typical audience has. And then you would have a stop codon. I'm not sure if it's UAG or UG. My bad, I'm gonna have to double check what that is, the stop codes. But that's the primary structure. The secondary structure is once the amino acids start to obtain hydrogen bonds, it starts to have hydrogen bonds. And then it's a little twist to it. And then the tertiary structure is where it becomes a little bit pleated. So pleated structures, and then there's a whole bunch of hydrogens and codes and all of that. Then the fourth structure, I don't know if you guys can see that. The fourth structure is where everything comes together, and then that is given to us as just a protein. And then that protein would either be phenylalanine, arginine, isoleucine. I'm just throwing so many out there. Tryptophan, and all these different, there's so many, and that's like a whole biochemistry lecture on its own. But when people obtain whey, which is commonly found in milk, specifically milk isolates, which is just a small word for just particles of milk. Whey protein typically has a whole bunch of these several different amino acids as well as proteins in here. But then also nowadays, we're starting to see that food and drug companies are starting to also have individualized leucine and individualized packets of these specific protein substances. And depending on if you know your biochemistry or not, or you are the performance coach or performance person, you wouldn't often know what these are for besides what the food label is telling you here. And I would honestly advise, as deep divers, that leave your comments below so that we can have more deep dive discussions on whatever protein sources you'd like me to talk about. But most of your protein should come from your food. And now if you're looking for aesthetics base or more performance and all of that, because we're starting to realize as a society we should be getting 30 grams of protein a day, that's where I would recommend the kinds of protein shakes and all that. Now the protein I would recommend for you to obtain ultimately comes through a consult with you and stuff like that, and what your specific goals are. But I would always suggest from sources of soy, and there's a lot of conversation about soy, and we'll have a conversation about that. Animal products, because lots of vegans are deficient in vitamin B12. That's mostly found in animal products. That's what you've seen also over the years. A lot of people in the vegan movement have actually come out of the vegan movement because despite it being very highly effective method of treatment of a lot of conditions or even ways of eating and even for cognitive growth and stuff like that, there's a lot of people who are vegan for the fad diet of it, and they're unable to get the proper nutrients they need that animal products may give them. Therefore, if you're not a vegan that is up to date with their lab work or up to date with their vitamins, or maybe even consulting with a vegan nutritionist, then it's really hard for you to maintain this diet without problems. But you can maintain it without problems. It's just you need to be on top of your food, which that's what makes it really a great diet, because you have to be cognizant of what you put into your food and how it's made and all that. It's just that you want to be on top of your vitamins. You can also have the source of protein from, I'm thinking it's like sardines, but there's this plant-based product. You can get it through tempeh, but if I get it, I'll put it here. Also, endame is good. I have had this endame packet from my local grocery store. It's a little red box. It's dried up, and oh my gosh, you're so good. The only way I could think of it or describe it is like it's peanuts in a bag. It's like a red bag. If I see it, I'll definitely make a note of it. But it's just amazing. And these are all the sources of protein. The reason why we really stress on 30 grams of protein is because, especially for us women, we need protein to synthesize a lot of things in our body. Most of our body requires protein to move, to function, and we have a lot of muscles in our body. There's muscles in your eyes, there's muscles in your feet, there's muscles in your toes, and all these things. And muscles. So my camera's turned off, and I'm like so pissed because I made a video. If you go on my YouTube channel, you could be able to see it, about nutrition and why people should go into nutrition science. And literally the orientation of the video is long ways because I use my iPad, and this whole time I could have just done this. Anyways, oh well. I forgot what I was saying, but we need to use in 30 grams because of growth. We need more new protein growth, and due to exercise, ways that we can grow our protein is through exercise and intaking more protein. And we've noticed that as we intake more protein, new muscle is grown. We have new muscle growth, and the more muscle that we have, the more we're able to absorb a lot of glucose needed. Or sorry guys, we're able to take in a lot of the sugar that we have and store it in our body for future use. That's even ancestrally how ancestors were super muscly and bulky and all that, because whatever we ate and had glucose, we were able to keep it in our bodies for energy for later. And the more you're exercising your muscles and being nutritious and taking good care of yourself, then you're simultaneously allowing yourself to be more lean and allowing your body to take in sugar as what it's meant to be for energy usage. Sugar gets demonized because we often are living constantly with so much sugar, and we don't find ways to get rid of this sugar. So then the sugar stays stuck in our body, and then insulin, that we love to talk about, insulin gets released. And insulin actually isn't supposed to be really released. It's supposed to be released in dire situations, because we actually have 4 transporters or 4 helpers, would you say, in our bodies that take in the sugar and puts it in the substances, reroutes that sugar away from blood to the processes in our body to make energy for us. But since we consume so much, we have to go past those 4 helpers and get in the last resort helper, which is insulin. And insulin keeps going into an overdrive, and it's like, you know what? We're done. Your Navy SEALs are done. They're done helping and getting rid of the sugar, and that's how the sugar gets into our blood, because we've just overexhausted our Navy SEAls and we're consuming so much sugar. Now again, if I'm saying anything wrong, then feel free to write below in the comments. If I said something wrong, I don't mind making another video to fix that or tweak that. But it's so important to get 30 grams, and I'm gonna also try to link a video of the muscle, or this video that was really good from the muscle. She's like the muscle doc, but I think she's an actual orthopedic doctor, and she was talking on Diary CEO about it, and it was really good. I think it was quite evidence-based, but we're noticing that protein is very helpful for our brain in a lot of processes. Now, from the article that I was talking about, it was about stress and protein. So stress comes in 2 different forms. Stress is both psychological, and there is a physiological response to stress. Now, if you guys want the cascade for that, then we can probably go over that on a video. You guys let me know. But physiologically, in little simple terms, is that someone may have, I don't want to do really negative things, but let's say someone falls off a bike, right? They get scraped. Even before falling, your body is already starting to shoot off neurons that is causing you to be prepared for such a movement. The body and the brain is so unique because I don't know about you, but I've been in a time that I almost tripped, but the motion of almost tripping has your entire body ready to absorb the shock of it and starts already making you have a sensation of the movement of the falling, and you not tripping by God's mighty grace brings a sudden jolt into your body that shocks you about the moment. But either way, you get a shock of impact. Everything starts to seize up. If some people are unable to talk after impact, that's great. If not, maybe the bike. But some people are unable to, they seize up, may faint. Some people may have all their adrenaline kicking. And whether they seize or faint, your body is already going into overdrive because something has just happened. And of course, a severe impact case, once you are going into the behind the scenes, your body is already being a triage center. The docs are actually there to help your body get back to its natural state. But your body is ultimately releasing and shooting off these proteins called, is it camp? No, it's not camp. Albumin. I believe that's albumin. Oh goodness. I studied this so hard in medical nutrition therapy. Albumin. And through these levels in your body, then your doctor is able to be aware as to whether or not you are starting to heal or whether you are still in a shock, stress state. And then your, what's it called, sympathetic, I know you guys know this from 8th grade, nervous system is shocked. It's high. Everyone's talking about that. Regulate my nervous system with me. Now, your sympathetic nervous system is on overdrive. It's shooting up a storm. Why did that sound like, oh my gosh, this meme is coming to me, but I'm forgetting it. Oh, something, I forgot that meme. Anyways, whatever. Sympathetic nervous system is on overdrive, and that's ultimately the cascade of stress because your body is trying to get you back to your homeostasis or balanced state. Why is that important? Because also, while you are going through this period, a lot of your protein is also getting catabolized or broken down. Why? Because all the focus is on healing the damage. That's why some people are unfortunately unable to recover after very traumatic shock, because a lot of the energy is taken to heal whatever impact is happening. And in that healing, depending on how hard it is and how tough it is, a lot of everything is going to that. So either way, this is a psychological cause of this. By God's grace, none of you will have to endure this thing, but that's what going to the is. By God's grace, if that's even your portion, you will have healing. But that's the psychological part of stress. And stress is a great thing in this part, because if your body is not stressed out here, then you ultimately would just, because your body will feel like everything is body okay. And of course you will think that it's great, but it's just like everything just is not fighting. So then, God forbid, the scratch is just like bleeding out, and then your body is like, oh, nothing is wrong, and boom, just bleeding. And God forbid that person doesn't go to sleep quick enough, then anyways, that's physiological. Again, if I'm wrong, feel free to write in the comments and stuff like that. Psychologically, a lot of us are stressed. When we're stressed, this hormone cortisol, which is also found in physiological circumstances in our brain, gets triggered. It causes us to gain weight because we want to keep the weight to protect us. This causes us to conserve our energy. And remember, sugar is glucose converted to energy to allow us to move. But if a lot of the sugar that's supposed to be moved into energy is trapped in your blood or trapped all around or becomes fat, you're just keeping it, no movement, you're not getting up and moving, so boom, you're stuck with all the fat and all the stress. Stress psychologically causes us to be anxious, paranoid, never able to rise to the occasion. It even causes us to freeze up and tense ourselves. And I don't even think, unfortunately, I don't even think I need to continue writing all the things that stress causes us to be like, because a lot of us have traumatic stress responses. And again, since this is the deep divers, I've been looking into this thing called TRE, which is, I believe, traumatic response exercise. And I'm looking into that, and maybe towards the end we can test our ability to do that together. But a lot of us are keeping in stress, and our sympathetic nervous system is actually working on overdrive. That's why a lot of us are like, oh my gosh, I'm so bloated. Oh my gosh, I'm working out and I'm not losing weight. Some of us women are doing so much HIIT, when in reality, when we're menstruating, since our body is working to mitigate the menses, we're supposed to do soothing things like walking, soothing things like gentle weight training. Because weight training is all about breathing. It's all about 1, 2, 3, up. 1, 2, 3, where you're attaching a lot of your mind and you're breathing to it. But a lot of us are just HIIT. And HIIT does have its place because it helps our heart. And for a lot of us on-the-go girlies, this is a quick power up before the day. But it has its place. And it definitely does have its place in cardio when we either talk about it with a cardiologist or we make a deep dive on this. However, a lot of us are so stressed out psychologically that as we introduce these high-paced workouts in state of mind or state of presence, we are just sending our sympathetic nervous system into overdrive. And there's now a new movement of a lot of girlies who are talking about how our nervous systems are shot and how there are so many different cascades and different actions that we see that represents that. And that's like a whole thing in neuroscience. And again, why I said in the other video that neuroscience is such a beautiful field. So stress and protein. A lot of us are stressed. That's why even if you get the best protocol, some of us will still continue keeping the weight. That's why when we work out, our beautiful bodies are trying to keep everything within us. That's why sometimes words such as I can let go or forgiving helps the psychological implications of stress. And why a high protein diet is so good, because high protein diet allows your body to realize that you can create new muscles and you can improve your eye muscles and you can use the energy with the protein that you're having in the uptake of protein. But you still need carbs, guys. You still have a brain and you need carbs if you also need to improve your cardio health. So don't let anyone fool you. But that's why we need to increase our protein, because it also helps our muscle. And if you notice, a lot of people who even just take protein shakes, which I do not recommend at all, that protein shakes should circumvent what you're eating, because also protein has a way to also just become excess fat or excess sugar if you don't combine everything and all that. And we'll talk about the keto diet another day. But as you notice, a lot of people with protein shakes, they oftentimes have more muscle definition and look more leaner because you're fueling directly your muscles that are actively moving on a day-to-day basis. You will be taking in a lot of muscle, especially if you're in these stress and traumatized and all these things responses. Now, trauma is a very long stress. It's very long. It's not a today kind of solution, but there are thankfully exercises that we're seeing neurologically that can help. But it's a very long stress response. So there's many of these people who have traumatic experiences or unable to forgive someone, so they become very bitter and turn to depressant kind of substances and stimulants. They often are shown to have a long stress, and their nervous systems are definitely shot. But it's still you can remediate from that. And a lot of us are actually having long stress. Maybe we may not have trauma, or sometimes we're all traumatized in certain ways, but through the active process of psychologically combating by saying, I can let go, and affirmations and forgiving, and getting rid of the bitterness, and changing or making things to go against the family ways and family generational ways, and or moving to a different city. These are all psychologically fighting against the stress psychologically. However, we're also learning that psychological and physiological manifestation of stress is very similar. The cascades are very similar. So as we talked about albumin and cortisol and all these things, many people that are having long stress, over time you'll see that their bodies are just as similar as somebody who's in a very hard situation. And that also leads to some of them wasting away, some of them not having a lot of protein and catabolizing their protein. That's why even when you see a lot of women as they get older and they don't have enough protein and all that, they start wasting away. They start having all these things. That's why it's very important that you're in the gym and you are moving. But you can't grow new muscle without an increase in protein sources. So how are you going to be increasing protein sources to about 30 grams a day? What is the meal that you are eating? I hope that my camera would allow me to continue recording.